With medicinal plants, I cannot give specific targeted medical advice. That's illegal. I'm not an MD. What I can tell you is the traditional uses and what Western science has found for the medicinal plants. If it sounds like I'm giving you medical advice, that's just a misunderstanding on your part. Please don't get me in jail. If anyone spends any time out in the woods, they've probably encountered this vine. It's thorny. Names for it. Some people will call it Bullbriar, Catbriar, blasphemy vine, because you get tangled up, you start swearing like some of This is actually really good eating. Now, to identify it, to make sure it's one of the briars, you want to make sure first the lower section is going to have thorns. The thorns may stop once you get up to 7 feet up. Down in the low part, it's going to be covered with thorns. You'll have these leaves at the base of each leaf. There's going to there's thorns. There'll be these two tendrils. Just two tendrils at the base of each leaf. Most of you see this? We got two here. One's kind of there. We go. So two tendrils at the base of each leaf. So thorny, and then two tendrils at the base of each leaf. What you do is you follow this up to the end. This is where a pair of leather gloves comes in handy. And you pull it out of the tree. This is actually a fairly small one. Out in the woods, you'll find ones that, again, as big around as my finger. The larger they are, the better they are. If you find one the size of my finger, you pull that down out of the tree, the end of it looks like asparagus, and it tastes like asparagus. But it lacks the thiol that makes people smell funny after they've eaten asparagus. So, really good thing. Usually it'll start growing in the spring and all through the summer until a hard frost or a deer or me comes through and takes the tip off. But yeah, you just follow it up to the end. You can eat it raw. Oh, side note, on Foraging, Texas, there's one of the tags that plants have is, does it need to be cooked? Can it be eaten raw? So if you're into raw foods, it's there for that. So you can see which of the wild edibles you can eat raw.
So you can eat the vine tips.
The tips. So what you do is, anyone ever harvested asparagus? I see you have some in the garden here. But what you do is you follow it to the end, grab the end, and just pull. And whatever breaks off is what you can eat. So that includes the tips, any leaves, even the thorns at that point are still going to be really tender. And there won't be that many thorns up there, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the tendrils, anything that just comes off when you pull is edible on it. Just like asparagus. When you're harvesting asparagus, you just grab it and pull, and whatever snaps off you eat. Like I say, you can eat it raw, or you can treat it like asparagus. If you happen to find out like a hollandaise tree out in the woods or something like that, you can pour that on there. Usually I eat it raw, because I don't have... It's just so good. I like it raw. And if you eat it raw, there's fewer dishes. So there's that too. So that's the tip. If you follow it down, let me talk about the thorns quick. Because you're not only are you getting like edible plant knowledge, you're getting other science, biology, things like that. It costs energy for a plant to make a thorn. For the most part, a thorn is a non-productive part of the plant. It's only there to protect itself from predators or herbivores in the case of this. So the vine, it takes energy for the plant to make those thorns, and it would rather use that energy to make more leaf matter or the berries or things like that. It doesn't like making thorns, but it figured out that most of the predators around here can't go up more than like 6 feet high. So after that, the plant, it just evolved that it no longer makes thorns, or very few thorns above that. So it's just kind of cool. It's nice to know plants are as lazy as I am. All right, if you follow this down into the ground, and I'm not going to dig it up because it requires some work. Oh wait, well, yeah, you can see a little bit right here. And I just want you to walk past here. You see there's tubers. Oh, there's some nice ones here. Oh. So underground.
They look like potatoes.
Yep, that's exactly right. So I just want you, if you can just walk past and look down.
Right there.
Well, okay, let's talk about the tubers. The tubers are about 30% starch and about 70% wood fiber. So you can't use them just like a potato. It's like a cross between a 2x4 and a potato. But that starch is calories, calories is life. And so there's a couple of different ways the Native Americans figured out how to use these tubers. And first off, on a vine like this, the tubers are fairly small. You get out in the woods, you get the big vines. I found tubers the size of my thigh. They're huge. If you look on the Foraging Texas website, there are huge, huge tubers associated with that. So, like I said, there are basically two ways the Native Americans would use them, and I found a few others. If they were having a party, one of these 3-day bashes, they would dig up the tubers and put them under the campfire and roast them like a potato. What happens when you do that, starch is just a bunch of sugar molecules linked together. The heat from the fire breaks those bonds, and so it ends up into the individual sugar molecules. So after 3 days, a lot of the starch has been converted into a sugar. So they'll dig it up, chop it up, and then pop it in their mouth and just suck on it, kind of like sucking on sugar cane. It is not as sweet as sugar cane. I'll tell you right now, it's a different directional sugar type thing. I won't go into the chemistry of it, but it's still an energy source, and it has some sweetness to it. And it's not a bad flavor, actually. Ooh, saw another plant. Sorry, easily distracted. So they would do that and just spit out the fibers. Now, if they wanted to keep the starch and use the starch later on as like a thickening agent, it's a very, very powerful thickening agent. The Greenbriar tuber starch is a better thickening agent than cornstarch. So, there's different, like flour is here, cornstarch is here, Greenbriar is here. I've known some people after the class who made vegan Jello shots out of it, which I think is just like library paste and vodka, but they went for it. After the 5th, what the hell, So I'm a bad influence on the kids in the class. Anyway, I'm back. So they would take the tubers, dig them up, cut them into almost like potato chips, and just set them in the sun to dry. And then after about 3 days, the fibers would kind of shrink some, they'd shrink down, and you could actually see the little granules of starch on it. Then they'd take a bowl and they would just rub the chips in this water. The starch sinks down to the bottom, the fibers that come off float to the top, you pour off the water, and what you're left is this massive library paste. It's just flour and water. They would take that and they would either dry it in the sun here, or if you go up north, they would actually bake it into blocks. And then when they were making a stew or something where they wanted to add calories to it or thicken it up, they would just break that off, crumble it up, and add it to the stew. And like I said, it's a very, very potent thickening agent. Side note, I mentioned baking it, under a fire. Word of warning, don't try baking it in your microwave. I dug one up, a nice sized one, and threw it in the microwave, set it for 15 minutes. I figured it was to see if we can bake it like a potato. At minute 11, it burst into flames. Shit, that was cool. There was these jets of fire coming out of this thing and up through the door of the microwave and scorching the cabinets. And then I realized, oh crap. So I actually had to get the fire extinguisher to put it out. The house smelled great because the fire had caramelized, converted the starch into sugar, and it smelled wonderful. It was Christmas time. The wife and kids are out shopping. They come home, open the door. Oh, what were you cooking? The house smells great. The wife comes running into the kitchen, sees what's left of the kitchen, and gives me the look. Yeah, where you can see her calculating your life insurance policy in her head. But yeah, so learn from your mistakes. If you got a campfire going for 3 days, put it under there. Don't, for whatever reason, the microwaves in Native American tech doesn't work. So yeah. Oh, so other ways, sarsaparilla. So not sassafras, but sarsaparilla. Sarsaparilla is actually made from a root of one of the Greenbriar tubers, and the chemical is found in all of them, but it's in highest concentration in this one, and it's found more right on the Mexican-Texas border. So if you're ever down in the valley there, McAllen or that area, the Greenbriar there has the best flavor. But even these, I've dug up, and then when I'm out in the woods, I have like some little frying pan or something with me. That's my frying pan. Okay, so I'll put some cocoa butter in there, and I'll toast the Greenbriar root. Chop it up and just kind of fry it for a bit, and then boil it in water for about 15 minutes, and then you get kind of this root beer flavored tea, and it's a really pretty red too. Depending on the tuber, it can be stronger or weaker. This one, I'm guessing it'd be kind of medium, just from the shape of the leaf. It looks like a Catbriar, not a Bullbriar. Actually, let me. If the leaf, hopefully you can all see this. I'll hold it up against the sky. So, that's kind of that boar spear kind of spade shape to it. That's going to have a better root beer flavor. So boiling it to make a tea out of it is also pretty good. And then cooking it first helps break down some of the starch into the sugar, things like that. Really good plant. Know it, love it. Don't microwave it. Okay. use this stuff. And I'm sure all of you have this in your yard. I'm going to pass this around. This is called pony's foot. And if you look at the leaf, it has this kind of shape like a horse hoof sort of thing. It's kind of round with the cleft in it. This is a bland green, and it's a very, very, very common bland green. You'll find it forming big mats around. I mentioned using a bland green to dilute the taste of the dandelion, the chicory, the sow thistle, things like that. This is one of my favorites for that. You just want the leaf, you don't want the stem or the root, because the stem and the root is rather stringy. There's nothing poisonous with it. It doesn't taste bad. It's just a texture thing. So I just go with the leaves. Does anyone here make their own sauerkraut or kimchi? Yeah. You should. It's awesome. You can throw that in there too, and you can make like pony's foot sauerkraut, which I have no idea how to say that in German. But yeah, you can do that. There's a number of plants when I'm making sauerkraut I'll throw in there too and just ferment.
I read that in your book. I've been thinking about it ever since because I see the pony's foot everywhere.
Yeah. And dollar weed is another good one. There's a few around. Ooh. Sorry, when I say ooh, that means I saw something. Okay. So there's not a lot to be said about pony's foot. It's bland, it's green, eat the leaves, you're good to go. Okay, all this stuff here with the yellow flowers, this is nothing. This is called horseherb, and if you're a horse or a rabbit, you love it, but humans can get nothing from it. Basically, all it would do if you're starving to death and you want your stomach to stop complaining, you can eat it, but you will get no nutritional value from it. But it's so common that I get asked about it.
And what was it?
This is the horseherb, also known as straggler daisy. It's just very common. It makes a good ground cover, but it has no edible uses whatsoever. It'll eat it all. There you go. Yep. Now there's a really interesting plant right here. This is another weed. It's a really hard plant. Alright. This is called Sida, and this is, pass it around. You'll see it has a little bulb here. It has a little yellow flower that opens up. And just, I'm passing around just so you can start to get an idea with it. This weed can grow pretty big and kind of spread out. Hopefully we'll see some more around. The reason you should be interested in Sida is it is a naturally occurring source of ephedra. So ephedra is the what you used to be able to buy in the Dristan and things like that. Very good decongestant. Also a very good. Let's put it this way: the Germans used to give their soldiers it to help them keep awake because it's a very potent stimulant. And then they figured out they could do a little chemistry on it and make speed and meth and things like that from it. Sida, S-I-D-A, Sida, very, very common weed around here. Like I said, hopefully we'll see some more. I think it's big. Pardon? How do you spell it? S-I-D-A, Sida, S-I-D-A.
So could it be used to help with nasal congestion and things like that?
Yeah, so you take the leaves and you dry them. Again, you wait about 2 weeks, and then if you have a head cold or something, you start drinking it as a tea. You will not sleep that night. And you will probably find yourself losing some weight because you just don't, you basically become me. I'll just put it that way. Which isn't necessarily a good thing because I sleep about 4 hours a night. So, but it's not just because I got so much going on. Anyway, yeah, so you'll find it around. Hopefully we'll find some more, but that's one again to think, write it down, go look it up, if you're interested in ephedra. I will tell you there's a couple of different species of it. They all look pretty much the same, but there's at least one that is illegal to have in your property now in Louisiana because it's just so loaded with ephedra. It's people that make meth have figured this out. So it's just one of those things that, yeah. So the other name for it is wireweed, because you saw me straight. I actually had to cut through that small thing with the saw.
Because it gets you wired. But
well, but it was also used for basketry, because it has a nice, strong, but flexible fiber. The stem, they strip the leaves off, soak it in water some, and it weaves really well. But then you got the leaves already, and you put the leaves in the basket, hang it up to dry, and then you're good to go. Okay, kids, don't do drugs. Okay, looking around.